And just like that, here we are back in the next video. And in this one, I'm going to discuss a prerequisite for this whole course on how to change the world. And it's not absolutely required, but it's extremely helpful. It'll make your job way easier, way more effective. And it's based on a virtue that is what I strongly believe, is the most underestimated and misunderstood virtue of them all. It's also a core one. It's central. In fact, St. Augustine taught that if you don't have this virtue, you can't have any of the other ones except for an appearance alone. And the virtue is humility. So first, let's cover what most people think humility is and what you, being among most people, probably think it is. And they think it's the opposite of pride and overbearingness and arrogance and stuff. And so instead, they think humble people are maybe like timid, and they're like, rather than being overbearing, they're making themselves less. They're like, oh, I don't know what my opinion is worth, but you're so smart and great. And in most cases, that really makes your influence rather ineffective, and it's not very fun either, is it? So rather than be less than, instead of trying to be more than, we're gonna just transcend that whole concept of conflict and competition. And here's how we do it. Now, the brain is great at like seeing things, measuring them, comparing them. That's what it does. It compartmentalizes the world. That's just the way it's designed to work, and that's great for certain things. For other things, not so much. So, and that's the way we think of masculine power, for example. So a lot of times when you say the word power, that's the only one we understand in this world anymore, is masculine power, which is force and strength, versus feminine power, which we'll do a separate course on that. But it's amazing. You're going to get really excited about having that tool to use as well, and which is, I think, is even more effective. So if you get this more like a heart awareness, like instead of a brain awareness, if you're coming from your heart, you'll realize that it's a very holistic point of view. It's very unified. It looks out of the world and at reality, and it sees everything it is and says, okay, there it is. There's everything. And it doesn't have to conflict and compete and everything. So as far as humility goes, an example would be, let's say you take a test in your French class, or you give a presentation somewhere, and somebody else does just a fantastic job. Like, it is interesting, it is engaging, it is inspiring, it is world changing, and you're like, wow. Okay, now if you're humble, you don't need to compare and say, oh man, she did so much better than me. I'm embarrassed to give mine now because I don't have as good of stories, I don't have as good of execution speaking skills, and my ideas aren't as well developed. You don't have to compare like that. You can just celebrate what they've got that's good, and you're like, wow, well done, thank you. And then you can go out and do your best, and if they're humble, they don't have to pretend like, oh, that was really good, as they roll their eyes and avoid eye contact. Instead, they can be like, hey, I really appreciated that, and they can know the good things, and you can celebrate all the good. Why not? It's kind of like that 70s book, one of the best sellers of psychology, about having a really healthy mindset to allow you to function in today's world. And the title is, I'm okay, you're okay. That is a good way to see the world. And so basically how you apply humility is you look at yourself, you look at other people, and you say, you're you, and you have your opinions, your preferences. I respect that. Your experience, I respect that. That's reality. And even if I want to change your mind, we have to start from this place where, like, I get that you're where you're at. Okay? And then you look at yourself and you say, well, I'm me, and I have my preferences and my ideas and my contributions I really want to make to the world, and I'm going to ask you to respect me in return and maybe consider some of my ideas. Now think of the last time you had an argument or a heated discussion, or were trying to make a difference. Did it sound like that? Or was there a lot more conflict built in? And if there was a lot more conflict, imagine, would it have been a lot more enjoyable and effective and productive if you had shown each other a little bit more respect? Probably so. Now, you don't get this a lot of times in the world because everyone's like all angry and wound up, and they're like, the ends justify the means. But look, the ends includes the enemies you just made by trying beating someone down with your opinion. And are they really going to want to listen to you? Probably not. You probably made even more division and sent their pendulum farther away from your point of view, and they're not even listening anymore. And we're destroying the very ability of society to communicate and reason together and take the good ideas that some people have and perfect them. I have several groups of friends who are major activists, and they're really excited about it, and they're all really good people. I love them all with great intentions. And one night I was hanging out with my Swiss girlfriend and a bunch of their friends, and one of them had gone to this group that was meeting, and she protested, and she shouted, and she had signs, and she kind of beat them down. And I said, you know, I think the effect that you're having is you're teaching these people that you're their enemy, and I don't think you're showing them anything appealing that they would maybe want to open their mind and listen to. So by resisting them, you're creating more resistance, and it goes both ways. And so if you're actually, I mean, I know you had a good time, and I'm sure it felt rewarding to talk down these people who you disagree with. But if you really care about the topic and your cause, then consider doing it in a more cooperative, constructive way. Help them agree with you. Like if you ever go and argue with someone, you back them into a corner, just like a wild animal, they have nothing left to do now but fight their way out. So don't back people into a corner. Help give them a way out. All right, we'll go into this in way more detail later. It's hard for me to stop once I get on a roll, as you may have noticed. But humility makes it all work better. It makes you become a better person. And think of this world that you want to live in 5, 10, 20 years from now. Do you want it filled with angry people who are shooting each other and shooting each other down, at least verbally, psychologically? Or do you want to live in a world where people can communicate, where there's warmth and understanding? Well, maybe like Gandhi said, you've got to be the change you want to see. That's the change I want to see. And so I'm going to, if you're not convinced yet, I'm going to keep giving examples and things along with all the other techniques for changing the world in this course. And I'm going to try and talk you into it. So hope you'll be open to the possibility that I might have some ideas that you will choose to adopt and employ and help you reach your cause all that much better. Hey, that was a long rant. Thank you for listening to it all. And I look forward to many more of those, and to your feedbacks. If you've got some, leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear them, and we'll go from there. See you in the next one.